question on static here. So a polythene rod is rubbed with a cloth, which causes both the rod and the cloth to become charged. Which of these is the force that causes the rod and the cloth to become charged? Now, hopefully that's quite straightforward. It is friction. The polythene rod becomes negatively charged. Which of these statements explains how the rod has become negatively charged? The really important thing here with static is that it's only ever electrons that move. There is no movement of protons, so we can immediately disregard options C and D because protons do not move. But our rod has become negative, and that means it must have gained electrons. So our answer is A. We're given our data here, and we're told that one of the readings for the polythene rod is anomalous, and we're asked to circle this result in the table. Now, if we look, we've got a value of 61 and we've got a value of 59, and with those two, we have a value of 80. So it is that value of 80 that is our anomalous result. So that should be circled. How should the student deal with an anomalous result? Well, there are a few things they can do. They can repeat it. But if saying repeat it, it's very important that you specify that it's that result, not the whole experiment. Or they could check that result, and again, make sure you are referring to that result. Or the other thing you can do when thinking about anomalous results is if you have to calculate a mean, you can ignore the result when you calculate the mean. Now we're asked to calculate a mean, and as we've just seen, we are meant to disregard our anomalous results when we do that. So in order to calculate our mean, we should just be adding together the 59 and the 61, dividing them by 2, and that will give us a charge of minus 89.5. That will score you 2 marks. If you don't disregard the anomalous result and you use the 80 in there as well, that would give you an answer of minus 67, and that will score you 1 mark. Then we're asked to describe how the student could use the rods to demonstrate that there are 2 different types of charge. So there's 3 marks available here. The first mark is available for identifying some kind of apparatus that allows that to happen. So in order to show that there are charges, you need to be able to show the charge interaction. So you need to be able to bring charged objects together. So you have one rod already, so you need something that you can bring that rod towards in order to demonstrate that there is a charge present. So you could, for example, have a second rod. Or instead of that, you could use hair, for example, or you could use a very fine stream of water, or you could use very small bits of paper. So any of those things that you will have seen in demonstrations that allow you to see static in effect. So a piece of apparatus that can demonstrate the rod is charged. You could, in fact, also use an electroscope. So if you're familiar with an electroscope, then you could use that. Or even a Coulomb meter. So a Coulomb meter is a device that measures charge. So there are a couple of other options, but they're less common in terms of what students tend to go for. So that gets you the first mark. Your second mark comes from saying, well, okay, how would we know that a charge was actually present? So you have to be able to demonstrate that a charged rod would apply a force on this object. So for example, if we had 2 rods the same, then we would find that the rods would either attract or repel, depending on what their charges were. If it was a stream of water, then the stream of water would bend. If it was the hair, then the hair would attract. If it was bits of paper, then the paper would attract. So anything here that demonstrates that there is some kind of force in action. So how would that second piece of equipment behave when it was in the presence of the rod? And then the key thing for the third mark is that it says 2 different types of electric charge. So your third mark comes from identifying that there is some evidence of both types of charges. So we have to therefore factor in, well, if they were the same charge, they would repel, but if they were opposite charges, they would attract. So there has to be something that suggests that there would be both attraction and repulsion happening. So for example, the fact that the like rods would repel, but opposite rods would attract. If, for example, you were looking at the electroscope, then the gold leaf would move in one direction, then the other. If you were using a Coulomb meter, then a Coulomb meter would show both positive and negative values. So anything there that demonstrates clearly that we have got an attraction and a repulsion because of the 2 different types of charge.